of what you want to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, that happened to me, actually. I was doing a presentation. There was actually 6,000 people. This was a webinar, and there was a glitch, and I couldn't show my slides. And it was a big tech group running the whole thing. So they, it wasn't just me and you and your minions there poking into the screen.
Yeah.
And
You know what? She figured it out. Yeah.
good, good. All right. So let me hit Jason. Jason, you've got this. Cheryl's saying, we know you don't need your slides.
Yeah, I really don't need the slides, but
sure
anyways, we're going to go ahead and use the slides because now we figured it out.
Let me just tell you all real quick how I met Jason and why I've got him on this, and then I'm going to let him do his thing, and I'll be commenting a little bit from time to time. And first of all, yes, we are recording this. We will post this. I'll get to it as quickly as I possibly can once it's rendered in Zoom and all that sort of stuff. So Jason is the founder of the JL Smith Group, a financial firm, holistic. Are you an RIA, Jason? I think you are, right?
Yeah, we're excited because we have a bunch of institutional AUM, but which brings us to about 1.7 billion. But we just crossed over $1 billion for retail AUM, so we're just super excited. It just happened.
That's a big magic number for this business. And Jason is he's an advisor, a holistic advisor, runs a firm just like a lot of you guys and gals. He also is the founder of C2P Enterprises, which is a program, a firm that coaches and helps people like yourself build your own business. I've had the privilege of training Jason's folks on both sides now, right? And then I'm also working with a lot of your clients through your Mentor Connect program, and other folks have become my coaching clients. So, Jason isn't just a guru like me who kind of does it from the side and comes in. Jason's doing it, right? Okay. He's doing the things he's going to talk about. And that's what you need to know. So Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you, and guys and gals, I'm going to chime in a little bit from time to time just to share my perspective or maybe ask a question. If you do have a question, put it in the question box. I'll also try to monitor the chat a little bit while Jason's talking. But mostly we'll just get going. So go ahead, Jason, share your deck. And
yeah, well, you know what, Bill, what I would love to start out is giving you some props. I think you said I might have been the first one to call you this, the Godfather of Referrals.
Yeah, you are actually.
and that's how I introduced him to kind of my tribe of, advisors that we have a mastermind group, and we all help each other and all that good stuff. But, I gotta say, I first saw Bill speak at MDRT a bunch of years ago, at least 10 years ago. I don't know the year it was, Bill, but you inspired me. You were selling this might have been even longer ago, because I swear they were cassette tapes. And I bought this program and I listened, and it had incredible results. And I've been a fan ever since. And then more recently, when the pandemic hit, my little bit of background, I have a financial planning firm, team of 12 of us there. I'm mainly doing business development, visionary of the firm, feeding the advisors that are doing the bulk of the planning now. We bring in a fair amount, 50, 60 million a year in new assets every year. It's a little bit more of new assets each year. And all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and we were primarily relying on live educational workshops. And you know this, Bill. And I was like, wow, we got to completely switch gears and figure out how to develop business and continue to feed the machine, right? And I don't want a bunch of financial planners sitting around without financial plans to do. And so I did two things. First, completely embraced the virtual world as fast as we could. Got a lot of coaching from great people out there in the industry to help us figure out, the best way to present virtually different than live, and all kinds of that, that stuff that you got to figure out, the marketing and the sales end of virtually. Right. And that took a little while, right? I mean, we crashed and burned for like 3 to 6 months before we turned it into where it is today. It's as big or better than it was previously doing live events. But in the meantime, Bill saved our butts, because Everybody went through his referral process, back through it. I'd learned it so many years ago, but everybody went through it, and we did a referral campaign to all of our existing clients, and then just had the VIPS conversations on a scorecard every week, measuring everybody who touched the clients, how many VIPS conversation happened every week, and the referrals magically appeared. So, and it was fast. It took 3 to 6 months to get the virtual marketing up and running, but you were like the triage, right? I mean, it was like immediately we start getting referrals, and we're able to, keep the business going while the pipeline was drying up from all the live seminars we were previously doing. So thank you so much for that, Bill.
You bet, Jason. My pleasure. And I think this is good for everybody to hear because, when the pandemic did hit, all you could do was, work on what you could control, right? And what you can control and can pretty much always control, despite all the outside factors, is your relationships with your clients, creating those engaged relationships, and then quote unquote leveraging them, promoting introductions, asking for introductions. And we just set you up with the tools to do that, the language to do that, which I know is helpful for a lot of folks, and it made a difference. So happy to help you bridge the gap and beyond. So tell us why we're here today. What are you going to share with us?
All right. So as you said, Bill, interaction's great. Type in your questions, and I'll just kind of use these slides to guide our conversation. But basically, it's about converting more prospects with a simplified, scalable approach. Is really what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to talk to you about how I've done that and how my individual financial planning practice is bringing in, we're on pace to do over 60 million in new assets this year. And that's 2 lead advisors and then 2 service or associate advisors, and then support team members. So that's what our practice looks like. And so we are following this, and there's thousands of advisors around the country that are using a similar process. And we have a stack of referrals or testimonials that we can tell you, no doubt anybody who plugs into this experiences similar results. And so that's why I want to share this with you today, this approach, because you're going to be able to take away some of this stuff. One of the things you'll be able to take away is at the end of this meeting, if you would like to have a 20-minute consultation, and we will send, and you do that 20-minute consultation, we will send you out a free copy of this book, which is, there you go, Bill, you got it.
Hey, Jason, everybody real quick, and don't worry, this is not going to just be a plug for the book. We're getting into some really heavy meat here. Yeah. But the introduction to this book, and I sent it out to a lot of folks who registered by Monday afternoon. It was like I was hooked. I read the introduction, and then I knew I needed to read the rest of the book. So anyway, continue on, sir.
And Bill, I'm glad you said that, because honestly, it was written, it's a true story, right? It's a parable, right? And it's similar to a fable, but it's a true story. And I walk through the journey of building a financial plan in very simplified way. If you ever read any of Patrick Lencioni's books, he's always writing fables to tell the story, and then he explains the model within. So you're learning, but you're so engaged in the story. I followed that same strategy with this book, and it was a true story of 2 clients, and the client suddenly passed away. And I opened the introduction with when the client passed away and when his wife came in. And as Bill said, it's very gripping. And it grabs the reader's attention, and then they just want to keep reading. And depending on how fast it takes 2 to 4 hours to read, but I'll tell you one thing, if you do bucketing in any way, then this book will sell more financial plans for you than any other tool you've ever come across. That's a big reason of how and why it was written, is to tell you to be able to give it to clients so they understand what a financial plan is and what bucketing is, and then they want to work with you to do a bucket plan. So don't need to talk about all that stuff. All right. So by the end of this presentation, what you're going to know is you're going to know the difference of, how we bucket money. Listen, bucketing's been around a long time. I'm not the first one that came up with bucketing. The earliest sightings was Harold Levinsky. I didn't know this because honestly, the way I started is it was always boxes. And so what I would do is draw boxes on the, on the notepad, and I would put people's money in these 3 boxes. And it evolved into me putting the words now, soon, and later above the 3 boxes. And then I would just fill in their accounts and counsel them through. So I had a better idea what was the appropriate product or portfolio. The now bucket was always the money in the bank, but I wanted to make better decisions based on the purpose and the time horizon of when they were going to access the money. And that's what doing this exercise with the client, putting their accounts in it. And I remember one time, and this is like 20 years ago, I'm sitting with a client and I drew all their accounts inside of the boxes. And then at the top, I totaled up the accounts for the now bucket, money in the bank. The soon, we put money into an annuity and some bonds. And the later bucket was primarily stocks. And so what we did is we drew the totals at the top and then I circled them. And then the client said to me, those look like buckets. And it was like bing. And then it was like I trademarked the words, the bucket plan, and we were off to the races. But that's the difference. We use a 3 bucket approach. A lot of others use others, 4 buckets, 5 buckets, etc. By the end of this, you will also have the opportunity to plug into these 3 tools that we can talk about in today's discussion. One is the actual visual of the 3 buckets. And I'm going to explain to you how you would explain it to a client to simplify, right? And then the pyramid of risk, which is a great way to educate your client on what the options are that can go in the buckets and identify any negative preconceived conceptions around something you might have tried to sell them. And you want to know beforehand before you talk about that. Some people hate mutual funds. Some people hate annuities. Some people don't want individual stocks, etc. By having a proactive educational conversation, you can identify those landmines before you walk into it. And the money cycle is really a way to create the need for bucketing, right? The 3 bucket. So I'm going to talk about all this in today's webinar. And Bill, feel free if you need to jump in with any questions.
You bet. I'm here. I'm just not showing my screen for now.
All right.
But I'm here. I'm with you.
Good. Now, and I can actually see Bill, you guys can't, and it's really odd. He took his shirt off and now he's got a robe on, and I'm not quite understanding.
Hey. Move on.
Just kidding. All right. By the end of this, I believe that you're going to feel excited. You're going to feel excited because you're going to be able to utilize new tools right away with your existing clients and your prospects to simplify financial planning. Financial planning is complex. There's a lot of stuff, right? Investments, insurance, taxes, legal, all kinds of different options. You can do annuities, you can do managed money, you can do all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, we got to simplify it. Sometimes we're guilty of overcomplicating because we learn so much, we just want to teach it all. But we got to simplify it. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Love that quote. So many of you have a lot of designations, a lot of education, right? This is really designed for a few different groups of advisors. So if any of these are you, then this is how it's going to help you and who it is. One of you is maybe you got the alphabet soup after your name. You got all the designations, all the information, but sometimes you're guilty of doing what I just described, overcomplicating things. Sometimes some of the advisors can get so educated, they talk over the client's head, or they get into this thing where they think the louder the thunk on the desk makes when the 85-page report hits it, the better the financial plan. And that's just not the case. The other group of advisors is the group of advisors that have made a career out of being unbelievable salespeople. They're fantastic at building rapport, bonding, making the connection, right? And people just want to do business with them quickly. They don't even have to do financial planning. But see, this group of people knows where the industry's going and where the puck is. They want to get ahead of it. And so ultimately what they're trying to do is they're trying to go from selling investment portfolios, annuities, life insurance, whatever it is, that has brought them to an unbelievable great level of success in their career, but now they want to incorporate financial planning, but not dig into 4 hours of analysis and complicated software and potentially confusing their client. This process works for those people. And then lastly, the third group is the group that is trying to do business succession planning. They've made a great career, they have a great practice, they have a book of business, and they want to figure out a way to train the next generation, a new advisor that can work with them. But they're a notepad presenter. They've gotten, a lot of their career has been a wink and a smile, and people like them and they move forward with them. And now they want a simplified process they can plug into, they can teach, they can learn, and then they can teach another advisor to be able to actually make it trainable, scalable, repeatable. So listen, in essence, what we're talking about when we talk about bucketing is really asset allocation. It's just unbundling asset allocation into 3 buckets. And it's a way that your clients will actually understand it. It's explaining asset allocation in a way they understand. They don't understand this stuff most of the time, right? But they understand buckets. They understand now, soon, and later. The now bucket's the money in the bank. The soon bucket's the money you may need, will need, or will be forced to take out because of RMDs sooner rather than later. So we have to take a conservative approach. Later bucket's the long-term money. Very simple, but the type of assets you put in here is really just asset allocation in a simplified way. We don't want to confuse them because they're going to say no. So talking about concepts and tools, right? There's a difference from concepts and tools. And that's what we've done is broken the process down into concepts and tools. Today, we're really just going to talk about concepts because we don't have time to go through all the tools. That's what we do in our live trainings and our e-learning modules and our mentors and all that other good stuff. But 3 concepts. So first is the 3-bucket approach, the bucket plan philosophy of now, soon, and later. And the way I explain it to a client, the now bucket is your safe and liquid money. It's the money that you can put, we all got a magic number, a certain amount of money we always like to see safe and liquid, sitting in the bank usually, right? And it's that money you can put your head on the pillow at night and sleep soundly when you know it's there. And so it's very important you talk about that and you get that off the table and don't try to make decisions on that money. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And so what you really want to do is make sure that you are allocating enough money in their now bucket to give them peace of mind to commit to the money in the soon and the later bucket. So I switched gears and started talking to you as an advisor. What I'm going to say to a client is the now bucket, money in the bank, and the way I just explaining, sleep insurance, put your head on the pillow at night. And then it's simply a 2-bucket approach, soon and later. The soon bucket is the money that you may need sooner rather than later. It's the money you're going to take income or withdrawals from in the first phase of retirement. You may draw heavily off these funds. So you can't afford to take the same kind of risk with this money because you have to make sure it's there when you need it. You need the stability and reliability of that income and to be able to take withdrawals without worrying about the big swings in the market. And if we have a now and a soon bucket set up, what we've done is we've bought ourselves a time horizon where we can commit to the rest of the money in the later bucket. And the later bucket is focused on long-term growth and legacy planning. And now you might say to me, Jason, hey, my kids are raised. Whatever's left is left. I'm not worried about legacy planning. But see, legacy planning is not just for the kids. It's most importantly for the surviving spouse. Because when one spouse passes away, what happens to one of the checks? If they both get Social Security, what happens? One check goes away. Pensions, another check could go away. So income always goes down when one spouse passes away. But what happens to income taxes? Income taxes for a single filer versus married filing jointly, the standard deduction gets cut in half, all the brackets shrink, and their income taxes go up exponentially. And so it's a double whammy. Income goes down, income taxes go up. We have to plan for that. When you explain this stuff to a client, there's 2 big aha moments they're going to have. Number 1, I don't have a soon bucket. bing, it goes off in their head. They want to work with you. They don't have a student bucket. Number two, nobody has ever talked about legacy planning for the surviving spouse and the double whammy, income down, income taxes up. It's powerful to get them to want to move forward with you. And we have scripts and a million different things that can help you with this. The other concept is the money cycle. The money cycle really does a great job of setting the stage for bucketing. The money cycle is a simple, you ever heard of the money cycle before? I ask a client. I always ask a lot of questions to get engagement, right? And so it's the money cycle, we're all go through it throughout our lifetime. It's been around a long time. Accumulation, preservation, and distribution. Now, the accumulation phase is when we're younger, we're working, we're preparing for retirement. We have a long time before we're going to retire. We can afford to take on more risk and more volatility because if we lose the money, we can make it back, right? We can keep on working. If the market crashes, we can wait for it to come back. But see, the preservation phase is when we're nearing retirement and we need to preserve a portion of the assets that we're going to draw from in that first phase of retirement. And that's the distribution phase. So preservation prepares you for distribution. The biggest mistake that people make is they go directly from accumulation to distribution and they never preserve a portion of the assets in preparation for retirement. That concept is very powerful. What am I talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about. It's sequence of returns risk. That's really what this is. This is a simplified way of explaining the dangers of sequence of returns risk if you don't preserve a portion of the assets in the soon bucket. And so that's the second concept. And the third and final is the pyramid of risk. And why I love the pyramid of risk, first of all, by having a conversation, an interactive, educational conversation where you're asking them 4 different points, and I'm not going to go through it right now because it takes about 10 minutes, but 4 different points throughout the pyramid of risk, you're going to ask questions, and we tell you what questions to ask. And so you open it by just saying, like I did with the money cycle, you ever hear of the pyramid of risk before? Some people will say yes. If you Google pyramid of risk, there's a million of them out there. But the one that we've designed here is for those advisors that are using investments, insurance, and annuities in their practice, right? And so that's really the intention of kind of how this one was designed. And it's a simplified way. And when you talk about individual stocks and individual bonds, you want to make sure you use the words highly concentrated holdings, right? Because if you have 100 individual stocks and 100 individual bonds, you're diversified. It's not high risk. You're more in the middle. It's like having a fund, right? But what we're talking about is highly concentrated holdings. Important to explain that if you're utilizing the pyramid of risk. But we're going to talk about high risk stuff. We're going to talk about middle, and we're going to ask questions all throughout, right? Have you ever owned an annuity before? Do you know how it works? Do you know the difference of a variable, a fixed, an index, and et cetera? And you're going to go through all these sections, right? And then ultimately, you're going to identify any landmines before you step into them.
Yeah. Jason.
Absolutely. I'm on a roll. I'm like an auctioneer right now.
Jason. But this guy, Ken Fisher, he's saying you should never buy an annuity. And you're here talking to me about annuities. I'm confused.
So Billy Bob, have you ever owned an annuity before?
Actually, I do own one personally.
Personally, okay.
Billy Bob confused.
So what I would say, to the whole, actually, I have a whole thing on Ken Fisher. You look him up, you can show all kinds of lawsuits and all kinds of other stuff we won't go into right now.
Right.
But the whole point, Bill, you bring up the point, it reinforces it. You got to ask the questions, because if they owned an annuity and they had a bad experience, or Susie Orman or Ken Fisher or whoever it is has completely convinced them, then wouldn't you rather just make them a managed money client and not incorporate an annuity, right? So that's the whole point of having an open and honest educational conversation with them, where you ladle in an opening question and 4 key questions throughout here. So you identify any problems that you might have if later on you do their bucket plan and you recommend an annuity in there, for example.
You know, it's great because you're talking about helping them expose their own landmines, right, in their planning or lack thereof. And by the questions you ask, you're also seeing if you're going to step into any landmines, right? Because if you don't know their relationship to annuities, whatever they've heard, experienced, and you say, you know, this is a place where an annuity might be a good tool to use, you could be alienating them or impossibly, right? You know,
Right.
letting them defend without even realizing it. So you're better off to say, you know, what do you know about this? What have you heard about this? And I'll tell you what my advisor said to me, just real quick, I'll let you get back, is he says, look, Bill, annuities aren't good. They're not bad. They just are. They're tools.
Yeah.
And for the right person, in the right circumstance, for the right reason, with the right annuity, it can be a wonderful tool, right? And not always. So anyway, continue on. I wanted to have a little humor, and I know that this is the kind of thing that these folks run into, right? So
absolutely, and I love it because, and I've said forever, these are all financial planning tools.
Uh-oh,
None are good.
I've just been admonished by putting on a Southern accent, and I apologize. Most Southern people are smarter than me, that's for sure. So
exactly.
what meant to insult? I apologize. Continue on.
All right. And you know, so that's just kind of a little bit of a tour or a walkthrough of the three concepts. And then here, if you see up on the screen, there's 7 tools that we teach. And so the difference of a concept and a tool, a concept is a way to explain something to someone, right? It's a way to actually get them to think about something in a certain way, right? So that's what all 3 of those concepts are. The tools are a form or a document or an exercise that you're going to go through with the client to gather the appropriate amount of information or accomplish what you're looking to accomplish with them. So what we've done, those concepts and tools, there is an order, and this is the order, what you see up on the screen, and typically it's a 3-appointment process. The first appointment is the first 4. The second appointment is the second 4. Then you use the design worksheet to take everything you learned to create a customized bucket plan that gets delivered in a delivery template. And so really it's a 3-appointment process. Now, listen, I've had small cases that we can get done in 2 appointments easily. Heck, I even had a guy come in without his wife, and he was talking about rolling his 401k over. And I told him he had to bring his wife back in. And he's like, can I roll it over the next time? We really hit it off. He was a referral. I said, yes, but we're going to have to block about 2.5 hours because there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of questions I have to ask you. And I went through all of these tools and drew up a customized bucket plan up on my PANA board, my dry erase board for him at the end, and then did the 401k rollover all in one meeting. So you can do it, whatever your style is. Listen, if you're already successful with a 1 appointment or 2 appointment or 3 appointment or 4 appointment, keep doing that. Just layer in these concepts and tools to just help you do a better job, right? If there's room, you might be the best financial planner in the world. There's no room for improvement, but most of us, there's some room for improvement. And that's the goal of being able to layer in some of these concepts and these tools and make it trainable, repeatable, scalable, so you can train somebody else and you can coordinate your front stage and your backstage. See, when you have a process and tools that you use, your team understands exactly what's going to happen next. The advisor you're training, if you're trying to bring on another advisor, they understand the process. They see you doing it with the client, and they're going to learn so much faster how to do it versus trying to figure it out on a notepad. And then you make the decision whether you pull out financial planning software or tax planning software or whatever other software you use. Social security optimization, we use all that stuff all the time, but not every time. Not every time. That's a big mistake I think a lot of people make, is they pull out all that and all of a sudden they confuse the client. Sometimes you just got to keep it simple, but you still got to ask all the right questions.
Hey, Jason, can I ask a couple quickie questions here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Markle asks, have you had any success in following this process with cold leads? And if so, how might you adjust it for that?
Absolutely. So one of the things, so we literally spend almost a half day in our 2-day live training just on the connection questionnaire. So the connection questionnaire, I've had Frank, your stuff's in it, Bill, Frank Maselli, Dr. Kerry Johnson, Joel Weldon. I mean, the list goes on and on of sales psychologists, coaches, all the best questions. Like, listen, I was a fact finder junkie, right? I joined Top of the Table back in 2006, MDRT Top of the Table, and I just kept collecting fact finders and kept asking everybody, what's the best questions you ask the client? And we built all those in, and there's sales psychology in the connection questionnaire. It is a fact finder, but it's a fact finder on steroids, and it's designed to get someone from ice cold prospect to like a best friend. I mean, literally by the end, and this is what I would say, if you do it right, if you ask these questions in the right sequential order in the connection questionnaire, you will see their eyes hugging you. And then, all you have to do is just follow the steps of the process. Don't screw it up at that point. Once you see their eyes hugging you, then then it's just going through the motions to eventually then move the money.
And then the other question is, does the book, The Bucket Plan, cover most of what you're talking about here today?
It covers it all. Yeah, it actually, and that's the cool thing about it is it does it in a story format, but then it also explains the concept.
Right.
So you understand each one of these tools and each one of these concepts in the book.
Yeah, quick message to James. James, you raised your hand, but we're not unmuting folks during this program. So I don't know if it was by accident, but if you have a question or something, put it in either in the chat or the question box, and then we'll get to it. Follow-up question, does your book include the fact finder? Yes and not.
It doesn't include it. No, the book doesn't have the actual documents in it. So what this is it's a client-facing book.
Right.
So it would get really overwhelming to have the whole connection questionnaire in there.
Good. All right, we'll continue on.
Yeah. So Bill, I think what I'll do now, and because this usually sparks the most of the questions, is I'll cover each one of these tools. And I kind of started doing that already with the connection questionnaire. And one of the cool parts of this connection questionnaire is there is an exercise that's part of it, and it's called the Concerns and Priorities Worksheet. So what the Concerns and Priorities Worksheet is it's where you actually ask the question of like, hey, do you have any concerns or, any priorities on your mind right now? Or hypothetically, is there anything keeping you up at night? What might that be? And that's just starting to open the door. Some people will just start rattling off, right? And so you'll make notes as they're rattling off. A lot of people will be like, no, we're pretty positive people, not really, that kind of thing. But here's what I then do is I either bring it up on the screen if we're virtual, or I slide the document over to them if we're live. And if it's a husband and wife, I give them both a document. And then I just say, do me a favor and just take a moment and rank these from 1 to 3. So literally there's a 1, 2, and 3 next to each one. And I say, listen, circle it as the number, and they're all the number one things people worry about. Running out of money, paying too much in taxes, a big drop in the market, long-term care, blah, 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 all healthcare, all these things that you can help them with for in most all instances where you can quarterback. And so it's all financial planning related stuff. And it's all things you can help them with. And so then you take them through an interactive exercise at the close, which you can see it's number 4, Concerns and Priorities Worksheet. You do it at the close of the first meeting. And what's so powerful about it is they just reinforced why they should hire you. because what they did is they ranked the number ones, the things that you want to get addressed right away. And so I always kind of use a little bit of that assumption close methodology, right? Like, what are the things that we need to address right away in our next meeting, right? So we're future casting, they're seeing us together in the next meeting. In our next meeting, what are the number ones that you want to tackle right away? Because my goal is to take your number one priorities and concerns and turn them into number threes. We're going to go after those first. The number twos are next up. They're on the back burner, right? They're not on the front burner. They're on the back. We're going to get to them, but they're not going to get, the number ones are first. And three is just not really a concern right now. And so that's actually the very last part of the connection questionnaire. That document is attached to it. Very powerful interactive exercise and a way to close. So you can see the connection questionnaire. At first, it's about psychology, making the connection, getting an idea of what planning, what resources they've accumulated so far. You cover the money cycle and the bucket plan philosophy, just like I did with you guys today. And then we close the meeting with the concerns and priorities worksheet. Like any good consultant does, this is a consultative sales process, asking tons of questions and then feeding it back to them of what they told you was their number ones. And that's the power of that close of that first meeting. And I'll kind of pause there in case there are any, Bill, any questions or anything that you want to throw in. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
One person asked if this is sales. No, this is not a sales presentation, or this is an example of how you would use the bucket plan in a sales presentation, I guess. Someone asked, let's see. Is the bucket plan catered specifically for pre-retirement clients, or has it also been successful with accumulation clients?
Excellent question.
In their 40s or so?
Absolutely. The difference, excellent question, comes up all the time. We teach this in the training, is there's no doubt about it. This is like when you explain the money cycle, that component is geared towards a pre-retiree, right? Or a retiree, right? Because you're talking about accumulation, preservation, distribution. But the thing is we do bucket plans for every client. I have 30-year-old clients, 40-year-old clients, high net worth entrepreneurs that are in their 30s and 40s. I have, we have business owners, we have attorneys and doctors and all kinds of people that are in the accumulation phase. They're far out from distribution.
Right.
But see, the concept of bucketing money applies to everybody. It doesn't matter your age. The concept of financial planning, having goals, addressing those goals and those priorities and those concerns and getting a written plan in place, right? Most people don't have a written plan. They just have a bunch of accounts they're contributing to. Yeah. And so by giving them a written plan and even a bucket plan, because even somebody younger, yes, they should have a now bucket and a certain amount of money set aside in the bank. Yes, they should have a long-term later bucket where it's all about growth and they can make the commitment to ride out the storm through the volatility and the ups and downs and don't make bad decisions. But in order to do that, the soon bucket is going to bring them a lot of peace of mind. For a younger person, even in the accumulation phase, a lot of times that's non-qualified money, or it's cash value life insurance if we're using that type of strategy.
Right.
So those younger people absolutely are going to have non-qualified, even Roth money that they can access if they need to without a bunch of penalties and interest. And cash value life insurance is what we're positioning in the soon bucket for the younger people in the accumulation phase.
It's interesting because, I turned 70 in, I don't know, a week, May 18th, whatever that is.
Oh, wow.
And I know I don't look a day over 66, but, but, I gave The Wealthy Barber out to my nieces and nephews and daughter a while ago about accumulation. It's another parable book about the power of compounding. And actually, as you talk, I'm going to send the bucket plan to those folks now, because now they're older and they're more sophisticated. But it's a great tool for your older clients to hand out to their, I guess, early 20s or maybe later children as well, just to help them teach their clients. Another question is, can this bucket plan concept work for life insurance-based advisors. I know we have quite a few on the call who deal with business owners and professionals. You kind of answered that a little bit by just showing how cash value helps with the soon money and and the life insurance with the later money. But you want to answer that directly?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, early in my career, I was just insurance licensed. And so I would do the 3 buckets. And as I mentioned, it was 3 boxes. If you're going back, it's hard to believe I've been doing this 25 years. And what I used to do, I wasn't investment licensed. I brought in a family stockbroker that did the investments for my family and me. And we worked together, Tony, and he's since passed away. But I used to always bring Tony in and do all the investments. And so what I was doing is I was positioning typically annuities in the soon bucket because I was working with pre-retirees and retirees, and annuities would give them the income or withdrawals and the stability for that. And then I'd do some life insurance out in the later bucket. And then the investments would be Tony's, out in that later bucket. Of course, the now bucket's money in the bank. Now, as my career progressed and I learned about the beautiful benefits of cash value life insurance, when I started working with those clients on the younger end in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s, I would position cash value life insurance in the soon bucket as a accumulation vehicle. And still always for legacy planning, one of the reasons we explain the 3 bucket approach and we talk about legacy planning is because it's so powerful to have that conversation and start planting the seeds for the importance of life insurance, right? I mean, especially if they got a bunch of 401k, IRA money, that's tax invested money, right? You're in a partnership with the federal government. I'm using Ed Slott stuff right now. And so how do you get out of a partnership? You got to buy them out. And so what's the best way to buy them out? Pennies on the dollar. How do you do that? You buy a life insurance policy, you insure the IRA so you can turn it into a Roth or buy out the tax infested money. And so absolutely, ton of life insurance opportunity using the 3 bucket approach.
So Jason, we have a lot of questions coming in, and so let me just go through them. I ask you to answer them succinctly so we can try to get to them all.
Let me real quick, Bill, if you don't mind. I want to plug the podcast because somebody asked, how do they learn more about all these tools and concepts?
Right.
You're going to learn in the bucket plan. If you commit to a 20-minute meeting and give us an opportunity to learn about you and you learn about us and see if we could do any business together. If you do that as a thank you, we're going to send you a bucket plan book, but the bucket plan book is client facing. Right. What we do in the podcast is we do a deep dive on explaining it to financial advisors. We cover every one of these tools and every one of these concepts. So download it on your phone right now. Just pull up the podcast, subscribe, and then you'll have the entire library and all the new ones coming out.
Yeah, good stuff. And look, everybody, some people said, I'm learning about this in American college and that's, and yeah, you admitted at the beginning, this is not your invention. It's really all about how you adapt and adopt it, adopt and adapt, whatever, to your world, the language you use. And I love some of the, things you said, sleep insurance. I think that's a great line. Jonathan wants to know if you have a train-the-trainer program. I think he should just book a strategy session with you guys and learn more about it, and then just figure out how he can use this tool, this knowledge for his folks.
Yeah.
Yes, we are recording this. What do you estimate your conversion rate to be after implementing this process? Because after all, this is about converting more folks, as the title of the webinar suggested.
Yeah, so let me see. So basically the way I'm trying to think of the best way to answer that to give value to the person asking because I don't know if you guys know this, but 87% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Oh, geez, I thought it was 47%.
Right. So I'm not going to do that to you. I'm just going to throw out some random statistic. But one of the things I will say to you is that, when clients are sitting down and debating on going through the process with us, right? If they're very clear up front that they just want to roll their assets over. Usually it's like referrals, right? And they just want to work with us.
Mhm.
Then, I'm going to pull those people out of the equation because I think it skews the average, right? Because they were already up front saying they're going to roll it over. Yes, we take them through the bucket plan. Every single person gets a bucket plan because it works like magic because they tell people about it. It gives them something to talk about, and they can give them the book. If they don't have a bucket plan themselves, you can't give them a book to give their friends and relatives. And that's how we're growing like wildfire through referrals. So I'm going to pull those people out. But the people that are coming in more off a webinar, aren't a referral, so it's a little bit more of a song and dance, we are charging financial planning fees 100% of the time, right? And so we are charging, at least a $995 fee, and they pay half up front. And then we let them know, though, if they hire us for wealth management, move their assets, and we switch hats. We go from financial planning to wealth management. We waive the second half of the fee because we're compensated for being, taking over the wealth management piece. So at the end of the day, it's $500, but they got skin in the game. And what I will say to you is that the people that pay the financial planning fee, right? And we're not talking about those referrals, which is a high percentage. That's right around 70%. Last I looked, it was right in that 66 to 75 range. That I do agree, once they sit down to pay a fee and go through the bucket plan process, those people, we're running over an 80% closing ratio on them becoming a wealth management and moving forward.
Good. So lots of stuff coming here. Sorry, I'm trying to find them all because they're all coming in. I'm guessing you're not going to get to this, but the question is, will part of this presentation cover any strategies around setting appointments by cold calling, email, reaching out? This is not about setting appointments. This is about once you have the appointment. With that said, my guess is that if you are reaching out to people, you want to let them know you have a process, a simple process that they will find extremely valuable, whether they work with you or not, correct? I mean, address a little bit of that.
You know what, Bill, I will address a little bit of the process. We use the same process that I'm showing you right now that we're using for you advisors that want to learn more. For any of you who are interested in learning more about how we can help you with all this stuff, you set a 20-minute consultation. And so what we're going to cover on that consultation is three things. Number one, and I'm saying this is how you'd say it to a client. But it's pretty similar what we're going to cover with the advisors. So number one, we're going to understand what your 1 to 2 priorities are, your most important things that you want to address. Number two, we're going to understand what resources you've accumulated so far, what planning that you've done so far. And I love the word resources, right? We're not going to ask you how much money you have. We're going to identify what resources and what planning that you've done so far. And then number three, we're going to briefly explain what our process is and what the next step would be if you'd like to come in for, a first appointment. Yeah. And so that's what we do. And we do a 20-minute consultation. That is how we set the appointment. And we don't do it via Zoom. We just do an old school phone call because some people aren't comfortable with technology yet. But after we do that 20-minute phone call with them that they'll commit to, and we do a Calendly link so they have access to our calendar, then at that point, we will try to either do a Zoom or a live meeting. But we got, for the first appointment. But initially, it's just a phone call, 20 minutes.
Thank you. So someone's already booked a session for you guys this Friday, Mr. Anonymous or Mrs. Anonymous.
Great.
Why do you call it best interest process?
Yeah, so the reason we call it best interest process is because when the DOL fiduciary rule happened, my chief compliance officer almost killed me, but I called the DOL directly and the SEC. And I said, I want you to review the bucket plan process and tools and everything we're doing that we're teaching to advisors. And we even submitted to the DOL to be a financial institution to be able to have our process like pave the way for that. I presented directly to the SEC and the DOL. That's a long story I can't go into now, but the good news is we didn't get any deficiency letters. We didn't get any negative anything. And so which they told us they would if they found deficiencies in what we were doing, and we never did. But it was really a way to make sure that what we were teaching to you, the advisors, was actually adhering to a best interest standard that the DOL fiduciary rule and the SEC established.
That's good. That's good. Real quick, this is a quickie. Maybe Matt has to answer this, but it says, John says, Google Play, something new, no longer available, podcast on YouTube. I guess, how do they get this the podcast? Some link wasn't working, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? If you do a 20-minute consultation, we'll walk you through it. We'll make sure we get you set up if you're having any tech issues, because I know our guys can walk you through whether it's doing it on the iPhone or the Android. You know, there's different little intricacies of each. And, you know, this weird stuff up on the, you know, it's funny. I'm a little bit old school. I didn't know how to use QR codes till that, you know, but it's pretty easy. Like you pull up your phone.
You just hold your camera up to it. The camera on the phone's now recognized. You don't even need QR software anymore.
That's all you do. Open your camera, hold it up, and it's so cool. A little link pops up. You click the link, and then you have access to go right into our Calendly to be able to book a 20-minute consultation that we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about on that consultation.
So I'm going to answer this for Timothy. Does the book have worksheets too? No, the book is a parable book that you give to the client. You know, the advisor would have sheets for that. Well, Gabe says, once you've gone through step 8, what software are you using to create the actual financial plan? I assume that is in step 9 and presented in step 10.
Yes. So first of all, we don't always use software, right? We absolutely only use financial modeling software, i.e. financial planning software, when we need to, not every single time, right? But when we do, we're using the retirement analyzer, the bucket plan edition. So they created a bucket plan version for us with the now, soon, and later through Retirement Analyzer. And actually, we have a way to get you that for free. And we can, if you're interested in that, you ask about it on the 20-minute consultation.
Cool. Can you share any resources that do a nice job explaining the benefits of cash value life insurance? Most of the resources online are strictly on the only term insurance side of the discussion. Any resources for that?
Not related to this, but we absolutely do have those resources. But we have an insurance marketing organization, and we have an RIA. And so those under the insurance marketing organization, those resources absolutely do exist. So again, if you explain that on the 20-minute consultation, they will absolutely be able to get you plugged into those resources.
Robin asks, helping us turn prospects into clients about using Jason's program. A lot of these tools, such as the 3 buckets, is something I use already. She does. Good.
Awesome.
I guess what else can we talk about that will help converting the prospects to clients? What else can she do, you know, quickly? I guess it's really how you present the bucket plan, but any converting prospects to clients ideas we can add to this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the big things is, you know, not to be redundant, but if you think back of some of the things that we talked about, right? So if you think back of the connection questionnaire and the psychology of making the connection, asking the right questions at the right time in the right sequential order, right? There's a cadence. And so if you do that, that right there is absolutely even more powerful than the money cycle or the bucket plan philosophy, or using the pyramid of risk to identify stuff that you got to make sure you're careful about how you talk about and how you incorporate it. It's the most powerful thing. But still, connection in the series of questions, money cycle, big aha moment, preservation. They never did anything for the preservation phase. It sets up the 3 bucket approach. If they don't have a bucket plan, they're going to want to either hire you, especially to get a soon bucket set up. Everybody's got a now and a later. They don't have a soon. And then the legacy planning, the double whammy for the surviving spouse. People don't want to do that to their surviving spouse. Right. So all these things, and the close, the concerns and priorities worksheet, they're all geared towards doing exactly what you're saying, is converting them, those prospects into clients.
Yeah, I think the key here is with the bucket plan, the 3 buckets or whatever anyone uses, you just review with your prospects. Let's talk a little bit about this. Let's talk a little bit about what have you done in this arena? What remains to be done? I couldn't imagine anyone on this call sitting down with a prospect that's done it all, right? And so what I've learned, Jason, is the key in helping people move through the process is if they see that there's a gap, if they see there's something that needs to be done, the question is this aspirational? Is this something nice to do? One of these days I'll buy more life insurance, or one of these days I'll do a plan, or one of these days I'll pay attention to this or that. That's aspirational. And unfortunately, a lot of our prospects come with an aspirational attitude. On the other hand, if you can shift and you can show them how it's actually a critical issue, that there's a cost to not moving forward, that's what'll keep them moving forward with you, right? Because then they can now see how important it is to handle this sooner rather than later. So as we wrap this up, if you'd like to address that kind of idea of moving the gaps and the problems and the exposures that this plan will show to people,
Yep.
how you make it more critical so they're likely to move forward in this process with you.
Yep. And I saw a question pop through. Listen, those concepts that I showed you, the 3 bucket visual, the pyramid of risk, the money cycle visual, 20-minute consultation, we will send you those documents and you'll be able to use those. Also, if you check out on YouTube, put in the money cycle, and an awesome whiteboard video comes up, exactly word for word how I say it to a client, but it's got the whiteboard video, and also the bucket plan. There's a whiteboard video for both of those on YouTube that you can utilize to play on the screen with your client.
What are those 2? The bucket cycle, and what's the other one? The life cycle,
the money cycle, and then the other one is the bucket plan.
All right, I'm typing that
in YouTube.
Chat. Well, look, we're going to have to get going here, guys and gals. I hope you found this helpful. I am going to be sending the recording to everybody. I've got a few questions to ask Jason about some things that he might be willing to share when I send out the recording. And I do urge you to set up the call. Look, this is not a heavy sales call, that he and his staff want to help you understand this and use this. And there's different ways to tap into what Jason has to offer that will cost you nothing. And obviously there's some investment to be made if you want to move to the next step. So Jason Smith, any final words of wisdom to help people get on their way and produce some great results with the important work they do?
No, just want to say that, we love simplifying financial planning. We love helping American families by helping advisors do that, right? And so if we can help you win by simplifying, and then that's a big win for us. And as you said, Bill, there's different ways you can engage with us. Our insurance marketing organization, our RIA, we're paying us a fee for our training. And we can talk about that on that 20-minute consultation.
A lot of people look like they've signed up for these 20-minute consultations. So I hope we're helping some folks out. So guys, gals, stay tuned to my newsletter. We'll promote other things coming up. Otherwise, thank you to Jason L. Smith. You got to use the L there because there's probably a few Jason Smiths.
There's a lot.
But Jason, thank you so much for talking to my tribe, if you want to call it that today. And I know you provided a lot of value. And we'll get everything out to everybody as quickly as we can. Thanks,
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.